Hi, everyone. Today we have Ryan Johnson. He's going to tell you the story of what happened to him when he was surfing. And he's been surfing since he was 6 years old. He had an incident in Oxnard, California while he was surfing. Hi, Ryan. Thanks for being here today. Can you tell us the story of what happened when you were surfing?
Sure, I'd love to. It was a beautiful day, and I just got done dropping a friend off at the supermarket who was injured and couldn't ride his bike. He lived on a boat, and so I gave him a ride to the supermarket. And as I stepped out of the car to help him into the market, I had this just everything was beautiful. Everything was like in high definition, and it was enough. It was it was so different that I actually said to myself in a quiet voice, I said, "Today seemed like a miraculous day." And as I walked into the market with him, everybody coming in and out of the market, I recognized, and I kind of knew just from the area where I live, and it caught my attention that there's something special about that day. Um, so after dropping them off, I went home. I grabbed my board. The sun was shining. There wasn't a drop of wind. It was just a perfect day. So I pulled into the parking lot. Didn't even check the waves. Just got suited up and paddled out. It was about head high and sheet glass. I made it out to the lineup and caught a few waves. And on my last wave, um, I kicked out. I went left. I rode the wave for a while, and then I kicked out of the wave, which means you exit the wave. And I got back on my board and started paddling towards the lineup where everybody sits to line up and catch waves, the takeoff spot. And I got about halfway out, and I took a look at everybody in the lineup, and it looked pretty crowded. So I decided to myself, or had the idea, to go in to paddle in and go do stuff at home. And as I was sitting on my board, I turned around to my right and lay prone position to start paddling. And I remember using my left arm to take my first paddle, and everything else just blacked out. And the next thing I know, I woke up in the ICU with a team of doctors and nurses. I was in a full body brace, completely intubated, restrained to the bed. A lot of machines, a lot of stuff going on, and that's what I remember in the physical world. Um, and I had quite an experience while I was dead. So what happened was, I'll give you the background story in the physical plane. Is something happened that triggered me to go face first into the water. I drowned. I had lost consciousness, so I automatically drowned, which led to pretty much death. My heart stopped bleeding, or stopped beating. Um, Brain stopped working, stopped breathing, and I slowly drifted out along the jetty, out past the lineup of the crowd of surfers, and out to the end of the jetty, to where the boats enter the harbor. And two kids were out in the lineup, and they're paddling around looking for waves. And what you usually do is you look for swells, for waves coming in, and they come in groups. So you're constantly looking out at the horizon for incoming waves. And one of these boys happened to be doing that on his longboard. He went up over a wave, and he got up high as he could to look as far out to see as he could, to see if he could see any waves. And he saw me floating face down, with my board trailing behind me. And so at first he thought nothing of it. He thought maybe I was just looking at something underwater, which is kind of weird since the water quality has no clarity to it whatsoever. So he paddled around some more. He got up on his board to check to see if any more waves were coming, and he saw that I was in the same position and nothing had changed. He seemed alarmed, and he got his best friend to paddle out to me. And they yelled at me, no response. Then they started kind of prodding at me, and there was no response. And then finally, one of them grabbed my hair at the time, lifted my face out of the water, and saw that water was pouring out of my mouth. My eyes were kind of rolled back and non-responsive, and my skin was completely purple and blue. And I had no heartbeat. So they started yelling to the guys that were in the lineup for help, and a few guys paddled out. And they had a difficult time trying to get, I guess, a dead body away, back to shore. So they tried a few various ways. Took a little while, and finally they managed to get me back closer to shore, where there was the undertow, and it was hard for them to get me up on the shore. And this is when people took notice on the beach, and a few people called 911. And a couple that were down the beach took notice. The wife took notice, actually. And her husband was an off-duty lifeguard paramedic, which was a miracle. And she said, "Babe, I think there's, a problem." And he took a look, and he's like, "No, there's some kids playing on the water." And she said, "No, there's an issue." And so he looked again, and he said, "Oh yeah, definitely." And he ran down, and he jumped in the water, and he helped pull me out, and he pulled me up on the beach. And at first, I guess first sight, he assessed me, and he thought that I'd been kind of dead in the water too long, to try to revive me. It would cause more problems than just letting me be. And so he left to go meet the first responders in the parking lot to kind of inform them of what happened. And as he was walking away, he had an intuitive kind of thought, and it was to go back and to start to go back and go through the motions. So he came back, he walked back to me, he got down on his knees, and he started CPR for about 5 minutes till he noticed my skin lightening. And he got a pulse. And right as he got a pulse back, the first responders arrived. And another miracle was that the chief of the fire station that got the 911 call had two teams out that day. One was fully dressed and ready, coming from another incident, and the other team was on they're doing physical activities, but they were much closer, but they weren't ready. So he sent the team that was closer, but they weren't suited up. They were in their like jogging gear. And on that team, one of the team members was a Navy reservist medic, and he had just got back the night before he had to report to duty at the fire station, and he was in Virginia for 6 weeks doing a course for this exact scenario for the Navy SEALs. And he was the first one on the scene, besides the paramedic that was on the beach that did the CPR. A lot of miracles, a lot of weird stuff. The guy, the lifeguard, he that first helped me, he used to be a good friend of mine. He was a roommate with one of my best friends that lived in Oxnard, and he knew me from way back when I was on the beach, and he kind of recognized me. Years have passed, but he couldn't figure it out. Anyways, the first responder insisted on taking over since he had just got back from that training. They put me in an ambulance. He insisted on going with me. A few more guys went with me because even though my heart was beating, I still couldn't breathe. I was still drowning. And so I was losing it physically. I was just kind of alive and drowning at the same time. So it took quite a few people to hold me down in the ambulance ride, and they sent me to the closest trauma center, which is a good 15 least 15-minute drive. And they checked me in and they did whatever they did in the ICU. I have no memory of it. Um, and, and then through about 3 hours, 4 hours later, I woke up in the ICU. Um, Now, the near-death experience part of it was an incredible experience. Um, I, at some point during the drowning, um, I, I, I left my body and I went into a beautiful, peaceful place that were just, it was full of colors, and I ceased to exist. I It wasn't something that I was conscious of in the way that we're conscious here on earth, where we're processing, where there's the I, and it's the I is processing the world or events that are happening to me. It was just, I just melted into it, and there was no I. It was like the I became the everything. And the first place that I went to was just this completely white expanse of infinity that had hues of beautiful colors, that were changing like a sunset. Um, and then from there, uh, I felt like I was led, or I was helped, or whatever. I went to a place that I felt like I was being judged, like to, but it wasn't like a courtroom. It didn't feel like that. It didn't feel like that emotionally. It was just peace and love, but whatever. But I was aware of something that was looking deep into my heart, like not about actions, and it wasn't about truth. It was about intentions, and just a deeper vibration of what we emanate. And it just found it just found love inside of me, and it let me, I guess I passed through that scene, or through that whatever it was. um, and remember that I was laying dead in the water, so I had no eyes to see with, no ears to hear with. um, I had no senses, physical senses, so all of this was happening internally, or in my soul. um, and it wasn't, like I said, I wasn't conscious of it, as I am here on a day-to-day basis. It was just, everything was, it was just happening. It's hard to explain, but there wasn't a separation of me and what was happening. I was just part of it all. It was like a drop of water returning to the ocean. um, you don't know if you're the drop, or the in the ocean, or the ocean is in the drop. I guess it's a relative, but anyways, from there I got this sense that I was about to meet something bigger than myself. Oh, I'm sorry, before this had the judgment part happened, I was shown kind of the world, and it was as if the world was split in half, and but everything was connected. It looked like a circuit board, but with trees and with rocks and with people and with everything. But everything was connected, and you could see its energy source. And we all came from the same energy source, but we all we all grow in the physical world as different forms, but still connected to the same flowing energy. And that kind of, this whole thing was shown to me as I was traveling to the place of where like my heart was being examined or looked at. And then after that, I, I there was an awareness or something that came over me, or that I started to feel. Um, and I don't, when I say I don't want to, regress on the part that says that, or I'm saying that 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 the I was lost, but I was conscious of this greater feeling, and I felt that I was gonna like meet God, or something of a higher power of some sort. And I remember this large white room, and there were no boundaries, but it had the feeling of a room. Um, and there was this table, and it was like a white table, but then again, it really wasn't. It was just this energy that separated, that you could feel the separation. And on the other side was, it looked, I mean, it was almost as if it was an image of me with long curly hair and glowing brightness and just white, like just this light pureness. Um, and had There's a lot of information that was transferred to me, and I wish I remembered a lot of it, because it was just this deep knowledge. And again, I had no ears to hear and no eyes to see, so everything was just being transmuted, um, uh, to me. um, and from there, I was I was guided. I had guides, which I remember, and they took me to like a land or a world or a garden of souls. And everybody was just doing it was like a park. It seemed like a park. And the people didn't have such fine features as they do here on Earth. They just had auras to them, and uh, their auras, they 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 um, they expressed the people's features, but their energy, like you could tell people were different by their shades of energy. It's a little hard to explain. um, and then there were a few great people that were waiting for me, um, that kind of met me there. They were like greeters, and they kind of had just this quiet wisdom about them. Um, I I believe they were some very big souls that have been passed on this earth. Um, Very wise and powerful people, and I don't mean power as in money, but I mean power as in like Gandhi and, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and just just profound spiritual human beings. And then from there, I went to another garden, I guess you could say, of souls. Um, and I was walked through it, and um, it was like taking a stroll through a park that I wasn't quite used to, because it was filled with souls, and everyone seemed happy, and everyone seemed in place and doing what they were supposed to be doing. It wasn't as if people had free will to act out of character or to act with ill intention. It seemed like people were totally at peace, where they were just grazing like cows. They were there's just a level of peace with every individual that was noticeable. Um, there wasn't like a lacking or a wanting or a needing or people running around trying to fulfill something. It was just, they were just gracefully grazing through this like garden. And then at some point I felt, or the best way to describe this was, I felt like I got a ticket, and I was being walked to like I guess the front of an amusement park. Um, Seemed like it had a gate and like a booth and stuff, and they take your ticket and they let you through the gate. And the way I think about it now is that that was kind of my entrance to the next world. And I had permission to enter into it. But at that moment was the first moment that my conscious kicked in, like my my ego, myself, like there was a spark of it in my mind where I remembered who I was, where I came from, and those that I loved. And I remember turning around as quick as I could and like letting the ticket go and running back from the gate in the opposite direction as fast as I could. And from there I went through this like time warp, like you see kind of on the movies, like with the tube and everything's flashing, and that's when I popped up and opened my eyes in the ICU, and I looked around and just saw everybody and everything. I was completely calm, and I've never been at peace like how I was, especially waking up to all that chaos that was around me. I just was, I've never been so much at peace. And it took me a little while to kind of realize where I was, what's happening, what's happened. Um, I couldn't move. I was confined, and on the board it said John Doe. They didn't know who I was because when they found me, I was just in a wetsuit. They had to take off of me. I had no identification, so they didn't know anything about me. So I just kept moving my hand for somebody to pick up that I wanted a pen and a paper, and this nurse finally got it, and so I wrote down, my wife's phone number, my parents' phone number, and they realized I was trying to communicate through that. And probably 10 minutes after that, my parents and my wife had walked into the room, and that was because the fire chief had said, "This guy's got to have a family. Like, I can't let this go." He's like, he told his team, he's like, "At dark, we're gonna go back to the parking lot when they close the gates, and hopefully his car will be the only car there. We'll run the license plate and we'll trace him down." So he followed his plan, but when he got to the parking lot, there were like 5 cars in the parking lot, so it wasn't very easy for him to pick out my car. So they broke into the first car, and it wasn't the right car. And the second car, they saw the windows down. They saw my mom's dog that I was dog sitting that day. The windows were cut. The dog was safe. It was cool enough for all the pet lovers out there. And the passenger seat was down because that's where we put the surfboard in. And so the fire chief was like, "This is the car." We broke into it. They got the registration, whatnot. And this was another miracle. Like, this was the only car that was registered for between my wife and I. So they were able to connect my wife and my house and everything due to the registration. So they sent a sheriff to my house and waited for my wife to get home. She was running late. And they said, "Your husband's been in a surfing accident. Doesn't seem like he's going to make it." And that's it. Showed up at the hospital right around the same time as I was waking up and giving that information. And there's a lot of other things that kind of transpired in the NDE world, that are hard to put into words on earth because we don't experience them. But I could say that all the people that have passed, especially good people, even not so good people, that love, or God is nothing but love, and everybody is a-okay, and it's here on earth that we have a hard time processing this. But in the worlds that we travel to, those people are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and they're safe, and they're being loved and fed and cared for. And I could tell this when I went through that judgment part, that they weren't looking for any of my faults. Um, they weren't looking for anything like that. They're looking for all the goodness in my heart, and that's purely what it was. And it was all the faults and bad things that I may have done were totally ignored. And so that's it. So if questions or anything, please go ahead, because I'm sure I missed a lot. But and there's so much, so it's hard to compact it all into. So
I know there's so much. Thank you for sharing your story, Ryan, because I know it's not easy to tell these stories because you went somewhere that's inexplicable and ineffable. It's not something that's easy to put into words. And I'm just going to do a quick share screen just to show that this was in the newspaper real quick. Here we go. No. It's right here. Hold on. Where is it? Why isn't the story there? I have the story there. Oh no.
you're getting it live.
Okay, never mind. Okay. So yeah, I was trying to share your article, but somehow it's not there. I don't know why.
Yeah, it said it was showing a green screen, but
Yeah.
nothing came on.
I don't know why. It was so easy before. I was able to have the article pop right up. So yeah, now I'm trying to okay, so I'll just ask you a question. So the reason that I do this, by the way, so that you know and other people know, we talked about it briefly, is I know that so many people, oh there, I just stopped the screen share. So many people, including myself, we have such a hard time on this earth. You know, there are people that you're going to reach right now, Ryan, that have had loss, and your story is going to help them so much. And what I do as a hypnotherapist, I help people with their anxiety, depression, things like that. And it can manifest in so many ways. It could be weight loss, stop smoking. It could be fear of public speaking, test taking. There's just so much. And so I started interviewing people because stories like yours, which I heard about years ago, this happened to you when, 2017?
It was March 17th, 2017.
Yeah, so
3:33 p.m.
oh, wow.
was when it was.
Yeah, so we'll do a part two because I know you have a lot more to share, but I'll show the article next time because when I practiced this, I had the article pop up really quickly. I don't know why it wasn't there. But so if anyone wants to reach me for help, it's growthfactor.org@gmail.com. And like I said, I help people with a lot, but stories like yours, I think, help even more because, you know, even if someone hasn't had a severe loss in their life, someone really close to them, just having a hard time financially or with family, with health, just stories like yours remind us that this is, but please correct me. I'd like you to summarize what I'm saying better because I haven't been where you've been. I've had little spiritual stories that are not significant like yours, but I feel that stories like yours remind us that this is the world of tests, like a school, and where you went is a world of truth. Like you were saying that there was no judgment, people didn't have wants and needs, you couldn't even be bad if you wanted to. Maybe you can summarize that. And my other question is, you mentioned so many miracles with the captain and the team and the ambulance and the surfers happening to be there and the registration with your car. There were so many miracles. So I'm wondering if you could just summarize this earth and the next place, and then also anything else with miracles after that, anything you notice about yourself. Because I know people either, they tend to be more sensitive about how people are thinking or feeling, and I'm going to mute myself to listen.
Okay, so there's a lot. Answer the question about, I guess, the earth part. One is that, well, one thing that resonates with me and I realize is that all of this, I didn't go anywhere. My body was floating in an ocean, dead. So all of this took place inside of me. Now, if my body is dead, okay, my blood's not pulsing, my brain's not working, I'm not breathing. The truth about that is that we have a soul. Okay, so anyone in doubt if they have a soul or not, or if there is a bigger picture, if there's a higher power or God, or however you want to define something larger than ourselves that created this amazing world. Um, it's that's something to me that is proof right there, is because I had that experience and I had no senses working. Um, so that means that something inside of me was transferred to somewhere else and experienced all of that. Now, this world, I would almost compare more to I don't want to use the word like th- this is a world where everything could be, like, in a way, like all the people that we've lost can come back, like can manifest back in this world. Like all these things could come back in this world. It's here that we need to, or we should, I can't say need because there's a lot of things I need to work on, but we should be working on those things here. um, Kindness, love, those are the most important things. Honesty, truth, and that's not just with somebody else, that's with yourself. I mean, that's what it boils down to, is really is how honest and clear you are with yourself. And it's a struggle. I've had a lot of struggles before the accident and after the accident, because it was such an intense thing that I haven't really worked through till today. I mean, you've been trying to get me to do this for years, and I've, I've come up with every excuse in the book not to do it. Some of them were legit, yes. um, but I it I haven't processed it. I'm just beginning to process it. It's so heavy, and I went from such a high, like when they took the intubator out of me in the hospital, I could barely speak, but I had so much wisdom and knowledge. I was trying to depart, like, to anyone that would listen, and everybody was just their ears were closed. They're just like, "You're alive," like they didn't know if I could walk yet, or if I had all my functions. It was too early, but they were just more amazed that I was alive, because it's unheard of. They say like 5 minutes is like the max you could go. It was way longer than 5 minutes. I mean, way, way, way longer, into the impossible. And any medical doctor would say that's impossible. But I'm here to prove that. So I don't, and so I went from this high. Um, Nobody wanted to hear what I had to say because they were just, happy I was alive. But, uh, I've forgotten a lot of what was departed or what was given, except the main thing, which is love and kindness and beauty and respect to people. And then I went down to a very depressed place as well, because I if I was told my purpose, I forgot it, and I didn't know why so many good people have passed, and I was brought back because I don't think I've done anything heinous in my life, but I haven't been a perfect person. Um, I haven't been a horrible person, but I haven't been a perfect one. And if anyone should get a second chance, I probably wouldn't put myself on the list. So it been I got very depressed because it was like, why me? Why am I back here? Of course, family, stuff like that, but everybody has some family at some point, whether it's healthy relationship or a relationship that could be worked on and healed, and all these things. So I'm going on a tangent from what your questions were, but so it's been a lot of depression. It goes up and down. There's not a day I don't think about that accident. There's a lot of PTSD. I went from surfing since I was 5 years old, and absolutely loving surfing and being in the ocean and that was my place of healing and refuge when I had a pretty intense childhood. Parents got divorced, and there's a lot of pain and anger in that I was dragged into, and I had no way of nowhere to hide and no way to like to to heal myself. And when I was introduced to surfing and the ocean, I instantly fell in love with it because it it was my place of refuge, and I did it as much as I could throughout my whole life and traveled all over the world to surf. And now I have such a fear of the ocean that it's a fear in a bad way, but just I'm more humble. It's a humiliating or it's a humiliated, I guess, fear of the ocean in a way. It's a humbling experience. So I haven't surfed as much as I should be, or I'd want to. I just did get a new board, so my plan is to get back out there. But well, I'm sorry I went on tangents, but I did have an oxygen brain injury due to this accident. So my whole life has changed. Like I spent the last 3 or 4 years trying to get back to who I thought I should be, who I was. And since that accident, that can't happen. I've changed as a person. I function differently. The doctors didn't even know what to do with me. 3 days later, I was able to get up and go to the bathroom and speak with them, and and they were baffled. They're like, "What do we do with this guy?" And so they discharged me 3 days later, and I wound up back in the hospital 3 days later with a bad case of pneumonia from the water in my lungs. But um, yeah, I just it's been all ups and downs. So yeah. So if you, if you re-ask some of the questions you wanted answers to or insight to, that would be helpful because my memory isn't 100%. So,
Everything you said is what we needed to hear. Everything you said makes sense. And, because of my past anxiety, I probably had it for about 18 months and I had some things that really helped me, but stories like yours really helped me too. And it's common. So I know a lot of stories like yours. I don't know how many, but at least 100, if not more. So everything you said is common. And I think we've spoken about this before. You haven't studied anything because you didn't want to know. You just want to have your own experience. You didn't want to read the books or read the stories. So I understand that. But everything you said is common. People usually don't want to come back here. When they come back, they're depressed and it can be pretty severe. Their relationships become more difficult because you went to a place where you can't explain it to your family and they don't understand why you're acting different. And I know you have only maybe a few more minutes because I know you have to go and get your daughter, but you answered all the questions. I guess we should definitely do a part two because I know there's so much more and you're probably going to think a lot after this interview about um, other parts and how it affected you. I guess my final question would be, once you returned, I know you were high for a while, and I've heard that before, you're just love everybody and life is great, and then you crash because
right,
you're back in this difficult world, and then we have to make money, we have to get along with people, it's not
right.
easy. So I think my question is just during that high, did you notice anything different about yourself? Did you know what people are thinking? Did these strange coincidences happen? Did sometimes electrical, your computer will break, your watch will break? Just what did you know is different about yourself?
Um, I, I don't have too much recollection about like magnetic stuff or electrical stuff happening. As far as people, um, yeah, I was in a totally I was in tune with people. As far as like a really deep sense of knowing beyond conversation, intuitively, like being able to kind of see through people to see, you know, who they really are when you peel away the skin and all the flesh and the physicalness of the world. Um, I felt like that with the world in general. Then that's been the tough part is, and part of the high part was that being able to see the material stripped away and how everything's just pure energy and love and abundance and everything. And the difficult thing, or what I know, was that I was able to see that in everything, and very, very in tune with it and very sensitive to it. And I think the more I had focused on that, the more difficult it came to cope with the physical world, because I started knocking on wood, and it wasn't, it was wood, and metal is metal, and all the things that are here to be the form they're in are doing their job, even though we're all made of the same stuff, and we're energy flows through us all. And yeah, I could go into long conversations about this, and I have not looked at any NDE stuff, because I didn't want to hear other people's story. Because I didn't want to fabricate stuff that other people experienced. So I never picked up a book, didn't hear a story. I refused, to if anybody offered any kind of suggestions, I refused to look them up or whatever, because I just wanted to have my experience until probably this point came along. And once I kind of tell my story, and I'll go back and look at writings and journals that I did, that were a lot soon after the accident, I'll get have some deeper insight and to share. But now I'll probably start looking into it just to just have a better understanding. It might help me as well. And I hope this helps other people with whatever they're struggling with. I've got a lot of struggles, pre-accident and post. And so it's human. Humans are to thrive, it's ups and downs, and it's how we deal with them. And I wasn't disappointed coming back here. I wanted to, like, as soon as I had that thought of my family and this world, as soon as I had just a spark of consciousness of myself and where I came from, I couldn't run back fast enough, whether I was scared to go beyond and, to the next world, that could be, or I really wanted to come back and repair the things that I left in shambles. And being here, I forget that every day. I forget to act with complete humility and kindness, and of being a service and stuff to people, because I take it for granted. It's hard in this material world to do that, because you don't always see the spirituality, but this world is nothing but spiritual. And if you grapple with even that concept, whether you think, this is just a physical world, and when this is over, it's over. It's not. It's just beginning. And I don't like to say people die, but they just transfer. They're just like a bus station, or a train station. It's just a one stop. And we got to make the most of it. And it's hard to do sometimes, to muster up that energy or that courage, or be humble and say I'm sorry, or whatever it is that you need to do at that moment to make that moment special and perfect, and something that you won't regret. Because one thing that I'm learning is that a life full of peace and not to have any regrets is probably even more peaceful than the experience I had, when it's our time to part from this world, or transfer from this world. Is that if we really humbled ourselves to every experience, to be present, and give every moment our true selves, whatever that moment calls for, whether it's a deep connection with the person, or it's you're job at work, if you give it your all and you're present, and that's what it boils down to, is that's what honesty and truth is. And that's our job as people. And we can walk around this world as 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 animals do, that don't have free will, kind of, and they're not able to talk, or they're not able to construct Manhattan and build jet planes, or humans are able to do that. And that's what separates us from from what Homo sapiens, I guess, would be the word, is that it separates us from the animal species, is that we're a step above and we have abilities to do that. And when we tap into our higher powers and we live a life of integrity and honesty, and we tap into our spiritual world here on earth, we bring all the larger picture into our smaller frame that we can only see, because this is only a glimpse. I mean, I can't even imagine how big the universe really is. And that's material thinking as well. And that's, that's not even it. That's just, we only know what we know, and we don't know what we don't know. And, so yeah, there's a lot to talk about. I could write many books and many of these on just the subjects. I have things that I've read, not to do with NDE, but things that I've read that have been mind-blowing, that I probably wouldn't have understood prior to my accident. I've always considered myself a spiritual person, but after the accident, I've had some proof, and I've had some experiences that have at least allowed me to think about concepts and things I read in a different light, and have a different understanding that I probably wouldn't have had access to prior to my accident. So
Thank you, Ryan. I look forward to us interviewing again, because I know you got to run right now to get your daughter. So thank you so much for
I don't even
being
know what time it is.
everyone for watching, and I'm really looking forward to all the people that you're going to help by listening. They'll be listening to your story and understand where the truth is. Thank you.
I hope so. I really do. It's all going to be good. It is all good. It's going to be good. And the best thing you could do for yourself is, or that we could all do for ourselves, is gratitude and humility. And that's it. And just be present. And that's all we could ask for. It's really all we could give. And yeah, so until next time.
Till next time. Thank you, Ryan. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye.